All right, we're live, and today we have Ahmed Anwar, um, and the hot topic is football. Nice to have you, Anwar. Ahmed, I hope
Thank you
you're
so
doing
much
pretty
for
good.
having me over. Thank you so much.
So let's get started, man. Let's get started with Arsenal versus City last night. It was an incredible game, and it was a very predictable outcome, don't you think?
Okay, so Umar, being a Arsenal fan, I will have to say that yeah, it was a bit predictable, but at the same time, you have to understand that Arsenal have been really incredible all season. They've been going at it. They have been punching above their weight, and honestly, they have exceeded expectations. No one expected them to be this good, to be leading the Premier League table. Right now, we're in April, and people thought they would stumble back in September and then October, but no, they were still there. But at every single stage, they answered the questions, and even though they had their wobbles, they came back. But ultimately, what changed? Man City, they weren't at their best before the World Cup. But ever since after the World Cup, they have picked up form, and then as you can see from the match itself, they were so calm, and there was never any point in that match that they ever felt threatened by Arsenal. And that is in stark contrast to the games that Arsenal have had with Liverpool, Southampton, and West Ham. While in their previous three games, which were draws or they were basically letdowns, they were leading, and then against Southampton, they created basically their own troubles. But the fact of the matter is that Arsenal were not at their best. There was no fight in Arsenal. They were not attacking Man City. They were not troubling them. They weren't asking any questions. And if you will see the match, it didn't look like a title decider, at least from Man City's side. They were very comfortable.
What do you think
So
Arsenal lacked in that game?
just the overall fight, the intensity. No one is asking them to perform better than they're up against world class players. Erling Haaland, Kevin De Bruyne, Ilkay Gundogan. They're world class players, players that have gone and performed at the world stage in and week in week out. So no one, so we know that they're not on their level. But what, as an Arsenal fan, I wanted to see was a bit more fight in them. Even in the previous outing, when it was at the Etihad, I'm sorry, the Emirates, Arsenal versus Man City, even though we lost that game 3-1, if I'm remembering correctly, we Arsenal still put up a better fight. They created more chances. They asked the right questions. Yes, they were unlucky; they were not able to score. Eddie Nketiah was unable to put the chances away, and we didn't have Thomas Partey in our midfield. But in this game, it didn't look like a top table team was fighting against their second place. It felt like Man City was just another typical item for them. So in that regards, it was disappointing. And even though it was, like you said, a predictable outcome, it was still disappointing on their behalf.
Before we get into it, I want to talk about some individual performances. What do you
Mhm.
make of Aaron Ramsdale's performance? And do you feel like Matt Turner or someone like him or should be getting more minutes?
Well, Matt Turner hasn't really gotten a lot of minutes in the big games.
Yeah.
I think his last outing was against Sporting Lisbon, way back in the Europa League.
Hmm.
So Aaron Ramsdale, yes, recently he did have that howler against Southampton. So yeah, you can argue that maybe his confidence was a little bit shaken. But at the same time, I would argue that Aaron Ramsdale has enough credit in the bank, meaning he has done enough to warrant his first place start as the number one goalkeeper for Arsenal, especially his performance against Liverpool. We could have easily lost that game, and the only reason that was still a draw was because of Liverpool, was because of Aaron Ramsdale. So I
Hmm.
actually agree with the decision that we persisted with Aaron Ramsdale instead of Matt Turner.
And do you feel like this is the title decider?
So, in a few words, the title wasn't decided by this match. The title was already decided by the draws against West Ham and Southampton because Arsenal, with the level of performance and the standards they had set this season, those games they should have won. And the fact that they weren't able to put those teams away, yes, it's tail end of the season. West Ham and Southampton are battling relegation. They're fighting for their lives, but you guys are fighting for the title, the biggest prize. You should be putting these kind of teams away. And the fact they didn't, that's what ultimately cost them. I mean, like you said, how many people expected Arsenal to go to the Etihad and get a result against Man City? The best, even the best that I was hoping for was a draw, and that's coming from an Arsenal fan.
And and let's talk about Man City, man. Holland again on the score sheet. He just can't seem to miss out, man. Every game, he's just scoring goals for fun now.
He's making the Premier League look easy. Even though there were many that were saying that, oh, he can do it in the Farmers League, he can do it in Germany, can he do it in the Premier League? Well, he's on 33 goals, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he passed Mo Salah for most number of Premier League goals scored, 32. I think he's on 33 now, 45 in all competitions. I may be getting that wrong. Apologies for that. But I think the star from Man City was clearly Kevin De Bruyne. I mean, what a player the guy is. Like, I played the game and I watched the game, and Kevin De Bruyne is one of my favorite players. The fact, the calmness on the ball, and his first goal, I don't think there are many players who could have scored that goal except for Kevin De Bruyne. Scoring two goals and that wonderful assist for John Stones. I mean, well, the guy is a legend.
Do you think he's probably the best midfielder out there right now?
Yeah, I think he wants it. That performance alone speaks volume to his talent and his skill.
Would you rate him higher than Luka Modric or the likes of Toni Kroos and all those guys?
Personally, yes. Even though Luka Modric and Toni Kroos both have a better career in terms of longevity, and yes, Luka Modric is a Ballon d'Or winner, so an argument can be made. Personal preference, I like Kevin De Bruyne better because the passes he plays, I don't think that can be replicated by Toni Kroos and Modric on that level. I mean, the weight of the pass, and uh, you just have to see his through pass compilation on YouTube, and you'll know that yeah, this guy can produce absolute magic. Credit to Luka Modric and Toni Kroos; they are amazing players in their own right. But hey, if you ask me, I think Kevin De Bruyne is better. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Um, let's go back to Arsenal. So we're talking superstars, and you think that Arsenal's missing that one superstar they need, to lead the team?
Mm, there have been doubts over the captaincy and the leadership qualities of Martin Odegaard. And even though I like Odegaard, I think he's a very good player, and he's been a massively improved player this season. Many people were actually likening him to Kevin De Bruyne, but I can clearly see that he's not at that level. He doesn't take his chances as much, and one of the more bitter criticisms that I have of him is that in big games such as this and as the game with against Liverpool, he kind of tends to go missing. Simple fact being that I barely noticed when he was subbed on for Emil Smith Rowe. So to your question, Arsenal don't have world leaders. They don't have world class players. They have potential world class players. Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Martinelli, Martin Odegaard, and William Saliba was gravely missed. I mean, credit to Rob Hill Holding. He is doing a good job. I mean, he's not making that many mistakes, except for the penalty he gave away against Liverpool. But you can easily tell the drop off in the entire play, in the way that Arsenal build up from the back, that has been hampered because of Holding. If it was William Saliba, we are more confident when building in the back from the back and then moving up against opposition and taking the fight to them. So the biggest contrast being that with Holding, you get a lot more long balls. You can you can easily observe this difference. So I think there are a lot of pieces missing. In my opinion, the midfield needs to be the primary point of upgrade for Arsenal if they want to go for the title again next season, and hopefully go far into the Champions League next season as well.
So I was watching AFTV earlier, and then there were some Arsenal fans. They're on about Arteta out, and what's your take on that?
I have a very realistic take on it. Yeah, Arteta is this is his first managerial job. He hasn't really okay. He has worked under Pep, but the fact of the matter is, what I like about Arteta is that he has a system and he has developed a style of play for Arsenal that wasn't there in the tail end years of Wenger, and it wasn't there under Emery. Now you can Arsenal have a style of play, and this crop of players in this season have restored pride to Arsenal Football Club. Well, previously, I don't want to call it names, but players like Shukran Mustafi and even Aubameyang, even though he was our talisman, they gave off this vibe that we were lucky that they were playing for us. But this crop of players that we have currently, they look like, yeah, they were fighting for the badge, even though it has been kind of peaks and valleys. But you can easily see that these guys are giving all that they have for the majority of the season. And that is something that I would credit personally, I would credit the manager for that. So while Arteta is not the best in terms of what I would say game management, substitutions, I've also personally questioned his substitutions in recent games, especially the games between Liverpool, like our recent. I have questioned his substitutions, but personally, I would say that we have stuck with him for so long, even though he placed eighth the season before last. Then he missed out on top four. We got fifth last season, and now it looks like we have almost just entirely missed out on the title, even though it hurts. But I would still persist with him. And yes, on the FTV and other, like even if you hop on Twitter, you're gonna find people like Arteta out, and there will be other Arsenal fans that are being they would be really spreading it, going the other way around. They will be saying that, oh, we actually exceeded expectations. We were the target was top four. I mean, but targets change based on your performance. You could say that will Chelsea really be this bad next season with the amount of money they have pulled in the winter January transfer window? Will Manchester United be this bad? I mean, they're building as well. Tottenham, well, yeah, they're a bit of a hit or miss, but who can say about that? But and you have teams like Newcastle, Brighton is playing really well. So yes, it seems like a missed opportunity, but personally, I would persist with Arteta. I think he's building something. Just what I'm more furious about is that winter January transfer window. Credit to Jorginho, yeah, he's a brilliant player. He won the Ballon d'Or and all that. I think we needed someone better. I was personally hoping for Caicedo from Brighton in his Conte-esque style of play. We needed that kind of midfield enforcer. Party is fits that profile really well, but he has been underperforming as of late. You can see it in our last few games. But so I would actually be more skeptical of the top level management, not Arteta, but the Cronkies and the owners. I think we need more funding. We need a big transfer window, and we need to strengthen this squad, build on it. I mean, we have got a lot of corners. We
Are
could
there
have.
any specific players that Arsenal are looking into, or players that you want personally?
So, amongst the many players that are linked with the Arsenal, Declan Rice, Moses Caicedo. Personally, I would prefer Moses Caicedo because, like I said, his Conte-esque style of play, the guy covers a lot of ground. He wins his duels, and he has a good passing accuracy. And even though then, with regards to transfers, there is always a phrase in football called the English tax or the English media hype. Personally, I believe that is somewhat the case with Declan Rice. I rate him. He's a good player, and we could definitely use him. He would be a great improvement over Grant Xhaka. Don't get me wrong. Even though Grant Xhaka is a very much improved player, which is something that I would also credit Arteta with the work he has done with him. But coming back to the English media hype, I think Rice is he's a good player, but I think that Arsenal needs Moises Caicedo, and I would actually want him rather than Declan Rice. If it's a choice between those two, I would actually take Declan. I was Moises Caicedo. Other than that, I think the most glaring fact of the matter is that our squad was really thin. we had a great first 11, but the second William Saliba got injured, as I explained earlier, Rob Holding came in, our style of play was hampered, and our threat on the ball was hampered extensively. So I think we need more recruitment in all areas, specifically the midfield and backup to William Saliba because Holding is just not up to par. Other than that, we need a backup for, or the best thing would be someone who can come in and challenge William Saliba and Bukayo Saka. Saka is really amazing. So the fact of the matter is that I think that even though he is the Arsenal star boy, I think they need someone who can push him to even greater lengths and someone who can come in and do a better job than him or provide something different altogether. And lastly, other than that, I think we need a more typical Haaland-esque type of striker. Gabriel Jesus is a brilliant player, but he's more of a false nine. I think he would be I think a pure striker would be somewhat beneficial for Arsenal more so than having a false nine kind of profile. Because when push comes to shove, at least what you can do is drop long balls and crosses in the box and hope that your big striker can get it into the goal. So basically, that's my
Yeah.
wish list for the
We're,
transfer
we're talking
window.
about dark horses, and you also mentioned Newcastle, man. What a run they're having, huh?
Yeah, I'm sorry, you cut out a bit.
Yeah, so we're talking about dark horses, and you also mentioned Newcastle, right? What a run
Yes,
they're having.
Newcastle is overperforming as well. But again, the thing about Newcastle is that they are so defensively organized. And the thing is that Eddie Howe has them playing very good football. And like, even though this was, people are predicting that because of the Saudi takeover, we will have another Manchester City type situation that a lot of big name players would come in. But no, Eddie Howe has built a really solid team from the players that he had. And I think amongst those standout players, you have Alan C. Maximin, even though he hasn't played as much this season, but when he has been massively impactful. And then Bruno Guimaraes, I hope I didn't butcher his name. He's a very good presence in the midfield, and I think that everything they build goes through him as well. And I actually was kind of upset that Arsenal didn't go and get him. I think the season before last, yeah, we were actually linked with him as well.
And the Saudis coming in. They got the funding is no longer an issue, huh?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so you feel like it's going to be a big summer for Newcastle United?
It can be. I mean, they certainly have the funds for it, but I think if Chelsea can spend around 500 million in the transfer window, what's stopping the Saudis from spending like 1 billion? What's stopping them?
Yeah. We
Because
do have a question. We're talking about Saudi Arabia, and somebody said, "What are your thoughts on rumors of possibility of Ronaldo leaving Saudi Arabia and becoming an ambassador for Madrid?"
Cristiano Ronaldo is an icon of the game. Let's not get it twisted. Despite his move to Saudi Arabia, what that man has done is just incredible. Kids and even people from my generation and my age mates, we had posters of him up on our wall. So, first of all, respect to the man himself. And he has his best years were at Madrid. I mean, let's not lie. Even though Manchester United is what built him up, and we all know about his relationship with Sir Alex Ferguson, but the fact of the matter is, his best playing days in the Champions League against Lionel Messi, the El Clasico, those tense matches. I think that, yeah, I mean, I would personally like to see him back in the top flight of European football. Maybe not as if he can be an ambassador, yeah, sure. I mean, I would personally rather see him play for Madrid rather than being an ambassador for Madrid, especially since, it's rumored that Lionel Messi is now looking to leave PSG. Maybe we can see both of those guys back in Spain, and El Clasico can be back. I mean, who knows?
Well, the fact of the matter is, Ronaldo is 38. So when does he hang up his shoes, man?
I mean, age is no longer that much of a concern. I mean, look at Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He's still 40 and still playing as
He's
a
still
striker.
strong, yeah.
I mean, and with today's technology and medical technology, players can now perform for a lot longer. I mean, look at Modric, Toni Kroos; those guys are still performing at the highest level. I mean,
Hmm.
it's not unheard of, and if anyone can do this, I think it is Cristiano Ronaldo.
Uh-huh. I was told to stay on Premier League, but I'm still going to
Yeah,
jump in because we do have another question.
yeah,
So,
yeah, sure.
uh, yeah, Madrid or City, man? Who got it? Tell how Omar asked this question.
Oh my God, this is very, very hard to call. I mean, you are looking at Champions League royalty with Real Madrid. And you have Manchester City. I mean, you know what they have done with Arsenal like yesterday. You know what they did to Bayern, and you know the squad that they have. So honestly, I'm just as a neutral looking forward to it as a whole. I'm not gonna put in money on anywhere because this can go either way. Who is the favorite? I really can't tell, man. I really can't decide. Personally,
So
I
fight.
would rather side with City a bit because just because they have that bit more squad depth, I think. I mean, but then Real Madrid have Toshinami and Camavinga as well. They are playing amazing.
Man, he's on fire, huh?
It is hard, but to that point, I don't know if you know, Real Madrid suffered a 5-1 defeat to Girona just
I
like,
did saw that, yeah.
yeah, but
Um,
maybe that shook them up a bit, or maybe they can use that as an impetus to perform well in the Champions League so that, okay, we performed really badly here. Let's go and get the fans back on our side. I mean, Champions League is their competition. They're one of the biggest clubs in the world, so they know how to go over there and perform. But at the same time, Manchester City with Holland, they're a completely different beast. They have picked up form. And people say that if now Pep Guardiola doesn't win the Champions League, then with Holland as well. So pressure is on both sides. I think it's more so on Manchester City. But I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna say, okay, I think Manchester City is a bit more,
yeah.
slightly more
Hmm.
favorite than Real Madrid. Okay,
I
I'm
kind of
okay.
agree there. I want to ask you another question because I actually want to get your take on this.
Mhm.
Hypothetically speaking, well, it's a possibility, but if Holland wins the treble, he wins the Champions League, wins the and he wins the Premier League, do you think he can win the Ballon d'Or over Lionel Messi?
He should, but
Oh
then
wow,
he should. But on the flip side, you have Lionel Messi who has won the World Cup as well. But here's the thing, though. Haaland, if he wins the treble, you can for sure say that he would be the highest goal scorer, goal scoring footballer on that year. And we have
hmm,
seen in the past that Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, they have both won based on their goal scoring records. So if that logic still applies, because here's the reality of it: the Ballon d'Or is something that is decided upon by journalists. In the past, people like Wesley
hmm,
Schneider have won them, and even Paul Nedved have won them as well. And those were based on team performances, but now it's more on individual performances. So, keeping with the theme of individual performances, personally, I would think that it's Erling Haaland who should get the Ballon d'Or. But at the same time, there is also, you could say that, like the English hype, there is also a bias for Lionel Messi as well, I think, especially in the years when Robert Lewandowski was scrubbed for the Ballon d'Or, but in that year there were other complications. I don't think that it was cancelled altogether. And then, well, personally, I think Erling Haaland should win. The man has set new records, and I think he's going to break Alan Shearer's record in the Premier League sooner rather than later. That's my take
hmm.
on it. Personally, I would think if he wins the treble, then yeah, for sure. I mean, that's three trophies. And Lionel Messi only has the World Cup. Paris Saint-Germain is out of the Champions League, and obviously they're gonna win
League
the
one,
Premier League, but still,
yeah.
that's still one.
Um, yeah. Let's move over to Italy, man. Napoli and Milan. Wow. I mean, Serie, like, it's been crazy, and then you have to the Champions League. They're going get there's two Italian teams again, and
Mm.
talk about that, man.
Well, Napoli have impressed. What can I say? Napoli, and they're playing such a interesting and you could say a style of football that's really easy on the eyes. You really enjoy watching Napoli, and credit to AC Milan. I think that tactically they went in the Champions League tie fully prepared. They went in with a plan, and Rafael Leao he was used impeccably on the wing, setting up Giroud. I think it was a tactical masterclass. That just speaks volumes about football that even if you have better players, if you have a better game plan and better execution of that set game plan, you can still come out with a victory against even the most informed sides, the informed side being Napoli. But personally, I think it was a bit of Napoli. On the topic of dark horses, Napoli was the dark horse of the Champions League. People wanted them to come into the final, so it's kind of a disappointment that they weren't able to make it. I mean, I still thought they would have won against AC Milan, but I mean, hey, that's football. You cannot count anyone out.
I want to talk about Victor Osimhen, man. That guy is also been on fire, man. Amazing performance.
He's one of the best strikers in the world right now.
Uh
And
huh.
strikers are such a, you could say, limited, a rare commodity, is what I wanted to say. And it's not just his physicality that's impressive. It's his technical ability on the ball, his hold up play. He's a proper striker, and he's the kind of striker that I actually wanted for Arsenal. So someone who can be a target man, kind of a profile. Victor Osimhen, Erling Haaland, they remind you of Zlatan Ibrahimovic and the strikers of old, the strikers that thrived under the 4-4-2 formation, which is why Napoli has been such a treat to watch because you know that this guy is always a threat. They don't get that many touches. They don't even see that much of the ball, but one or two or even three touches, that's all they need in order to make an impact, in order to score a goal. And goals win matches. What can we say?
Um, well, do you think he will stay at Napoli next season?
Well, for some reason, it's always every player that's linked with a move away from their club. It's their dream to either play for Barcelona or Real Madrid. For Victor Osimhen, it's Real Madrid. But another Premier League club that is heavily, oh my God, there's just someone out, that is heavily linked to Victor Osimhen is Manchester United, and they are
Hmm.
in dire need of a striker. Wout Weghorst, personally, I don't think he was of Manchester United's caliber. I don't know why he was there in the first place, but hey, that's got nothing to do with me. So I think they're looking for that type of profile, and one of the names that they've been linked to is Victor Osimhen. Other than that, there's Harry Kane, but I mean, we don't know whether Harry Kane is going to move on or not, even though he should for the sake of his career if he wants to win some silverware. So I think that he will move because a lot of the problem. It's not like he's. I won't say that Victor Osimhen is in the same category as Jude Bellingham. Bellingham is
Hmm.
an amazing player, and even though he's being linked with a host of clubs, Bellingham will be far too expensive, more expensive than Victor Osimhen. Sorry to segue a bit, but here's the thing: Victor Osimhen, I think he is at that level that where now he's due a big move. Jude Bellingham has a
Hmm.
lot of time. He can play, I think, another season in the Bundesliga, and then he can make his big move. But Victor Osimhen, I think now, especially hopefully when he wins hopefully he's going to win the Scudetto. I mean, what are we talking
Yeah.
about? Even after he wins the Scudetto, he is going to be. You can bet he's going to be targeted by a lot of different clubs. A lot of clubs want him, and personally, I think yeah, he's going to move.
And do you think? Do you think Real Madrid are gonna go for Jude Bellingham?
They have been linked with him. But here's the thing, though: Real Madrid already have they're stacked in the midfield department, And you understand that Luka Modric and Toni Kroos, they are aging, and now even though Modric signed a contract until 2024, I mean, that's longevity right there. But they still have Camavinga, they still have Tosheleni. I hope I didn't butcher his name. And I think that while Jude Bellingham, even though he's been popularly being linked with Liverpool, um, I think Real Madrid will go in for him. I mean, especially because since Real Madrid missed out on Mbappe, their big signing, they haven't had a, you could say,
A
blockbuster.
superstar.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
blockbuster signing. They are due one. I mean, it's Real
Uh-huh.
Madrid we're talking about. But
Uh-huh.
I think it makes more sense for Real Madrid to go for him. Um, but then where would he play? I mean, then you have three
Yeah.
promising young midfielders, the ones that we just mentioned, Camavinga, Toshiani, and Jude Bellingham. I mean,
Mhm.
personally, I think he will be moving, and I think Real Madrid will put in a bid for him. I think if he's promised game time, I think he will. He will move.
Well, before we go back to the Premier League, I just want to get your take on Milan versus Inter for the semifinal. What do you think is going to take that?
Well, on paper, AC Milan is in better form. They just came off with a win and beat their league leaders. But that's the beauty of the Champions League. Like I just said, with a proper tactical plan and that's one that is executed well, teams can beat teams that are better than them. So I won't put it past Inter to put up a fight, but I think that AC Milan is still heavily the favorites for this tie.
And I want to talk. I also want to talk about some players about of AC Milan. I enjoy watching them a lot. Like
Mhm.
Rafael Leo, he's been great, man.
Rafael Leao, one of the best
Yeah.
wingers I've seen. I mean, again, I mean, did you just see his goal for his assist? Sorry, for Olivier Giroud. The man
Hmm.
ran the entire length of the pitch for that. What can we say about him? He's one of the most hottest commodities in football right now. And there's a reason for that. Not only is he physically, he has the physical aptitude to be a striker, to be a winger. I think he can even play as a striker. This guy has a bright future ahead of him. Let's not get it twisted.
Yeah, and man, I feel like their depth is insane. Like we haven't seen AC Milan, doing this good in Champions League in a minute. So I'm really glad that they got like the likes of Brahim
Exactly.
Diaz and Theo Hernandez and all these guys, chipping in.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a good callback. I mean, I don't remember how long ago, but AC Milan was a household name in the Champions League. I mean, who can forget Carlo Ancelotti's AC Milan, and who can
Hmm.
forget Istanbul for that matter? I mean, I was just a huge fan of that AC Milan side, like Andreas Pirlo, Gattuso, Kaká. Like these guys, they were our childhood. Uh, what
Hmm.
can we say? So really nostalgic to see AC Milan back again. And personally, I think it might just be a bit of nostalgia and bias, hoping that yeah, AC Milan should get into the final. I mean, just for the history.
Uh-huh. So I've noticed that Manchester United have just scored against Tottenham. They're playing right now,
Really?
and they're up 1-0. Yes.
Well, Tottenham
Yeah.
have in a very bad run of form. Like Tottenham been all over the place. Even when it wasn't working under Antonio Conte, they sacked him. But they then appointed his assistant coach Stellini, which was kind of weird. I thought the whole point was to get a new manager Mounts and to, change the way that they played football, but nothing changed, and they've had uh, quite a few negative results, and the most negative being the thrashing that they got from Newcastle. But then, I mean, oh, look at that, and they're already 1-0 down. I mean, if for this tie, I would have heavily favored Manchester United. They're in a good form. They're fighting for top four. So I won't be surprised, but I mean, hey, we've seen weirder things in football.
See, personally, I'm a Chelsea supporter, so when Tottenham loses, it's like a victory for me. So I'm glad they're down. And let's talk about Chelsea, man, because I get really emotional when you talk about Chelsea, because I ask these questions from the heart, man.
All right.
Man, we've been struggling so bad, like it's just been you know, I don't want to excuse my language. This has been a shit show, man. It's been crazy. It's been I can't even use words to express my feelings.
I mean, Chelsea is a very weird situation, but here's the thing: not a lot of wrong has been done in the recruiting department. I mean, from an outsider's perspective, they have spent more than 500 million pounds. They have brought in quality players, no doubt about that. Kudos for that. Even though you guys stole Mikhailo Mudryk from us, I mean that turned out well for us. I mean, Trossard is definitely better. Thanks for that. But still, I think it's just that the biggest mistake was that sacking Thomas Tuchel. I mean, the guy just won you the Champions League like last season. I mean,
Hmm.
that made no
Yeah.
sense. Okay, fine. Chelsea is known for sacking managers and then getting new or just getting other world class managers. I mean, that's what I remember: sacking Jose Mourinho, then Antonio Conte, and then But the fact of the matter is, Chelsea always had a plan. So I was expecting I was actually expecting Jose Mourinho to come back after Thomas Tuchel was sacked. But I think here's personally, I didn't personally rate, and this is actually my question to you as well. I personally didn't rate Graham Porter as a that level of as a Chelsea manager. I never saw him as a Chelsea caliber manager. So this is my question to you. Did you think that was a right appointment in
I I
at the time?
personally don't even think he should. Thomas Tuchel should have been fired in the first place. But honestly, I don't think that was I mean, the numbers they speak for themselves, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
but here's
So.
the thing. Now, people say that Graham Potter has done a very good job at Brighton. I mean, look at Brighton; they're still doing the same. They're still performing consistently. That's not a big deal. And here again, here's that word again: the English media hype or the English tax. They hyped
Hmm.
up Graham Potter, and even though he did let's just give him the benefit of the doubt. He did a good job at Brighton, but he was never a top six manager. He was never at the level of Chelsea. He couldn't manage
Hmm.
all those, egos that get them on uh, 500 million pound people that coming. Like Mikhail Mudryk cost freaking 80, or was it 120? No, we
It
offered
was a
80.
lot of money.
It was 120. Oh my god, 120. But still,
um. Well, I also wanna ask you a question, because like I wanna ask about Frank Lampard, man. Like, why do you bring him back when it's just like.
that made no sense whatsoever. I mean, granted, he's a caretaker manager. He's expected to
Uh
be
huh.
swapped out for someone else in the short term. But here's the thing: it's just, it's just pathetic, man. I mean, I feel sorry for you guys. I mean, you guys are sitting. I mean,
Yeah, man. It's been insane with our Talha Omar. He was on the show a couple weeks ago. He kind of mentioned that reckless spending was a big part of our failure.
yeah,
Do you agree with that statement?
yeah. A lot of, or we say the buzzwords going around at that time was that the scattergun approach. I think that's where many of the problems came from. It's not
Hmm.
that you guys were signing bad players. It's just that I don't think they were fit for the football club. I mean, you guys signed Joao Felix on loan. You guys already had Kai Havertz. So who's going to play false nine? You guys can play two false nines. You guys need a striker. And your other striker, Romelu Lukaku, was out on loan to Inter. So that's the point. And I think what the situation with Chelsea, it teaches us that it's not just about spending, it's about spending in the right places, finding someone that is in the right fit. But how do you know who is going to be the right fit when you don't even have a consistent manager? Now, my question, just a general question, do you think how much of an influence or say did Graham Potter had in the signings of Chelsea? How much?
I'll be honest. Like Grant Porter, I don't think he had any. I think it was the owners who are like making these
Oh, right.
marketing decisions. Because let me tell you this: the same owners are also in charge of my favorite basketball, and my favorite baseball team, and they do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's the same with Monkeys. They own the Denver Nuggets, I think, if I'm not wrong.
yeah, they do. Yeah,
Yeah, and and the Rams, I think, in the yeah.
the Los Angeles Rams. Yeah, and
Yeah.
also Vancouver. Right? Yeah.
So that approach may have worked for like in
Marketing
basketball,
and business. Yep.
market, business side. But
Yeah.
here's the thing. Unless this teaches us that you need proper footballing minds in the decision-making places.
Hmm.
Now, if you had just so here's the thing. One of the reasons that Thomas Tuchel was sacked was because he didn't agree with the transfer policy. He said to Todd Bowley that you're not getting me the players that I want, so how is the team supposed to play the way that I want them to play? If they're not going to play the way that I want them to play, then how can I promise you wins and points on the board? So the basic thing
Hmm.
that I think that Chelsea got wrong was with the manager appointment. They should have just gotten a suitable manager. Credit to them, they backed Graham Potter, but they didn't back him completely. They didn't give him the players he wanted. They just stuck with him and hoped for the best that maybe he can make do with these players and that he can get results. I mean, Frank Lampard got better results than Graham Potter, man, last year.
Hmm. And but I want to like move on, but before I do, I want to ask, where do we go from? Where does Chelsea go from here? This summer is going to be a big summer, a long summer.
Haven't
So
they already confirmed that Mauricio Pochettino is going to be your manager? Or was that
um,
just speculation?
I believe I don't know if that is. Can we get a fact check on that? But yeah, but as far as the players are concerned, I feel like there's going to be a lot of players that are going to be exiting Chelsea. I believe Kai Havertz should not be a part of this roster, along with. This may be a hot take, man, but I feel like we gotta get rid of Christian Pulisic, even though he's a American player. But I don't think he belongs in the roster because I don't. He doesn't get any minutes, and we got a stack lineup. So yeah,
All right.
man, that's my personal take.
Okay, so just a quick question from you. Mason Mount, do you think you should leave Chelsea or not?
Yes, he should leave, man. I've been saying this. I've been preaching this. I feel like he's not a good fit. This is a hot take, bro.
Or let's to be personal because I personally rate Mason Mount and I would actually take him at Arsenal. I mean, he'd be a great improvement over Granit Xhaka, and he's really good in that number 10 role where he can carry the ball forward and just get into the danger zone. Then they can make something happen. But all right, if in a few words you want to say you want Mason Mount on, why?
Yeah, well, let me tell you this, man. He's not performing well. That's simple as that.
But you can say
It's
that
all.
that's of the
I
managerial turmoil as well. I mean, you can
I
see
mean, yeah, that's a good argument. I'm pretty sure. I feel like I'm just.
how was Rashford performing last season? When he got a good manager, now look at what he's doing for
Yep,
Manchester.
that is true. Also, he was under the spotlight, Cristiano Ronaldo back then. But now he is their superstar. So yeah,
So you want to get rid of Mason Mount, huh?
that might be a hot take, or maybe I'm just kind of like feeling like a little down because we suck. But yeah, man, we
And,
need we need to change. It might be a hot take. I don't even know if I'm right now, but it might be just me
all
speaking.
right,
Like yeah.
like this is something that's been floating around a lot. Do you think Mauricio Pochettino can make something happen of this club? Supposing that if he is your next manager, you think they can get them to where they want to go?
Well, honestly, if you like, go down a hole that deep, it does take time to come back up. So
Mm.
I feel like top four might be a possibility next season, but like, well, you will look at teams like Arsenal and like
Yeah.
Newcastle, and even like Aston Villa, they're ranked number 5 right now. So I
Yeah,
mean,
he's doing really well as well, man. I mean, credit
yeah,
to Unai Emery. I mean,
yeah.
he has really rejuvenated Aston Villa. I mean, uh, I think he just made Steven Gerrard look that much more inept at the managerial role. I mean, look at Ollie Watkins, the guy scoring goals for fun now.
Yeah, the one team we didn't talk about yet is Liverpool, man. What do you make of Liverpool?
Liverpool has had a disastrous season as well from their standards, no doubt. But I think with Liverpool, it's you can easily see what the problem is. They have an aging midfield. Henderson, Milner, they really need they need fresh legs, which is why they're also
Hmm.
looking at Mason Mount, and just to establish a link to our previous conversation. I think Fabinho has been underperforming as well, even though it's not much of an age thing. I think the drop off was just surprising to me as well. He wasn't that commanding in the DM role this season for I don't know what reason, but and also they were plagued with injuries as well. Diego Jota has been out for a while, but I think that with Liverpool they need a good transfer window, and once they get that, I think they can be back for challenging for the Premier League. I
Uh-huh.
think
Yeah,
they're
you mentioned.
now. I think that's why this season has been very interesting. Like you have Leicester, West Ham, these kind of things in a relegation battle. Liverpool is outside the top four. Chelsea is way outside the top four. Like teams like Brighton, Newcastle, they are fighting for top four. So it's been really interesting and it's been really good to see. I mean,
Hmm.
this level of competitiveness, that's really good to see, even for the
Hmm.
neutral. I mean, for all the good times I had with Arsenal for like the first half of the season and the bit of bumps and the wobbles and the latest disappointments, overall, it's been a good football experience, from a
Hmm.
neutral standpoint. It's been really
Yeah.
enjoyable to watch.
Yeah. Before we go to the final segment of our show, I just want to take your top four for the Premier League. You think it's gonna be
All right,
City, Arsenal? Yeah.
let's get the obvious out of the way. First, Manchester City, second, Arsenal. Okay, so let's get into the nitty gritty. I personally think Newcastle is going to take third, and then Manchester United is going to be fourth. Just going on the form that Newcastle is on, I think that
Hmm.
they can. I think they will get third.
uh,
Yeah,
uh,
just saying it to rile up Manchester United fans or anything. This is an unbiased footballing opinion.
yep. I respect it. All right, man. Let's move on. So before we finish, I do want to ask you a couple questions. So let's go to the
Okay.
trivia segment of our show.
Okay.
All right, guess the player.
Okay. Oh, Phil Foden. I mean, come on, man.
Oh, that is easy, man. That is easy.
Yeah, that is.
I do believe that our production could have done a better job pulling that picture out. But
You're just
I'll
handing
take
it
it.
to me there, man.
I'll take it. I'll take it. All right. So let's go to the next question.
Okay.
Um, who is this player?
F and then bold, lightning. Hmm. I don't know what those boxes are in the middle, man. I mean,
Oh,
that's
so they're not popping up for you. It's all good, man. Yeah. So I feel like they're supposed to be up on your computer, but you're using your phone. So
that's okay. You can just tell me what those emojis are, then I'll try to make
so
something
uh,
out.
uh, so it's the French flag, and
Okay,
then
it's a
there's
French
the
flag. Okay, I thought it was just FR. Okay, French. The guy must be French. Okay.
yeah
What are the?
there's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
ninja, and there's a turtle, and there's the
Oh,
let's.
Kylian Mbappe, man, dude. Those
That is the kid.
emojis. Those
You know, I came up with that one.
freaking
I
emojis
can
not popping on.
I came up with that one. That's a big brain for
Nice.
me. All right,
Yeah.
a final one. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see them, but
Yeah, now I can see these. I mean, an ant, a leg, and I think that's a. So the first is an ant,
so
then there's a leg,
it's a
and
knee.
then
It's a knee. It's a
was a
knee.
knee. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, what are the last two again?
So the last one is the French flag, and the second
Okay.
last one is like the martial arts costume. Like
Okay,
the
martial arts costume. I mean, martial arts?
like
And, oh, this is.
the first two and the last one will give you it, man. Come on, you got it. It's
The
an
first
ant.
two and the
It's a
last one?
knee. It's an ant and it's a knee. and it's a French flag.
Oh, Anthony?
Yeah, Anthony, and there's a martial arts costume.
Anthony Martial. I mean,
Yeah, you got it, man.
Oh,
All right,
man.
you got it. That was tough, but we got it, bro.
That was
I
good
should,
indeed.
yeah. Well, Evan, I appreciate you for coming on, man. It was a pleasure talking to you. Your ball knowledge is insane. I hope to have you here again. I'm just curious though. Do you watch any other sports?
Somewhat, but I do follow basketball a little, especially for the playoff season, but not in this depth. I mean, I've been a football fan for a long time, almost
Yeah.
entirely
What's your basketball team though? I'm just curious.
Warriors. I mean, I don't want to
Ah,
be a
man.
mainstreamer, but I mean,
Whatever.
I just like the 3-pointer in me. I mean, I've been
It's
watching
a great
certain.
sport. You should definitely get into it more. But yeah, man. All right. It's another. We have, Emma, thank you for coming on. It's been a
Thank you
pleasure
so much,
having you here.
man.
Yeah. Before we go, there's a Formula One episode coming this week, the Baku Grand Prix. So be sure to watch
All right.
that, man. All right. Stay tuned.
Sure, man. Thank you
All
so
right.
much for having me, man.
Yeah. Later.
Later.